This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, gang? Welcome to a big edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We got a lot to talk about today as we count down until, 9:30 tonight for the puck to drop at the Shark Tank as the Jets look to extend their winning streak and get back on top of the Central Division after the Avalanche stormed back to beat the Calgary Flames last night with 3 goals in the third period. Jamie Thomas from Jets TV is going to jump on now. Fortuitous timing to have Jamie joining us today because Jamie is also a card-carrying Miami Dolphins fan. I'm quite interested to see his state of mind coming out of last night's ridiculous Monday night doubleheader with 2 big upsets that have completely shaken up the playoff picture in the National Football League. We'll get to that coming up. But of course, Jamie with his thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets, and then it'll be Hammer time. Jeff Hamilton. We'll talk Jets with him. I definitely want to pick his brain on his thoughts on how everything went down with the reporting in and around the Shohei Ohtani fiasco over the weekend when it comes to Blue Jays fans and certainly many of the people that made erroneous reports. So that will be fun. And now with the playoff picture as cloudy as it's ever been in the National Football League, Andy McNamara will join us a little later on. We'll talk about that. And of course, as we go live, for those of you that are with us on YouTube, shout out to everyone joining us right now. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. We will await word from Mike McIntyre in San Jose on the status of Kyle Connor. The Jets will skate in about 25 minutes. So I would imagine that, some point in that next hour while we're on the air, we'll get news of the severity of the injury to Kyle Connor from Rick Bowness when he speaks after the morning skate. So buckle up. It's going to be a big one. Continue the prayer vigil and hope positive vibes for KFC. And let's get right into it. Hey, a big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day, the gang at Coolbet Canada. And by the way, shout out to Markham Fanasuk, who is a regular WSTer, a very loyal Lock Shop listener, and he was the winner of the Coolbet Hockey Hall for the last month. So he's getting a great Coolbet prize package as well as some tickets to see the Winnipeg Jets. So shout out to Mark. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Modern Man Barbershop, Aquatech, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Sport Manitoba, and Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Jets, Little Brown Jug, and of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remis in here and get this show on the road. What's going on? How about those games last night?
Yeah, man, the Monday night doubleheader. Well, I don't know. Was it a doubleheader or was it like...
Yeah, it was a doubleheader.
But it was 2 games at the same time. It wasn't back-to-back. So I don't know. I don't know if you can call it a doubleheader then, but it was 2 games.
I think it's just 2 games. I mean, even before when they staggered the games a little bit, I think it was still a doubleheader.
Yeah. I'm just joking around. And we had that and a number of NHL games last night as well, including the Jets division rivals, Dallas getting a win, Colorado getting a win. So while the Jets were in first in the Central for a day, you look now, Colorado with a big third period comeback against Calgary last night. They've retaken first, but hey, they played 2 more games than the Jets, and Dallas has played 1 more game. So hey, the Jets, but you go by points percentage, the Jets are still in first. So we should be looking at it like this. So a couple games, looking forward to, hey, back on the horse tonight, a big late one, ready to stay up late. Got the coffee Bruin, Jets, Sharks, 9:30 start. And last Friday, show suspense for this one in the chat. Last Friday was Ohtani watch. Today, ligament watch for Kyle Connor, as we wait to hear any updates, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got into it yesterday. There was a lot of anger on the show yesterday. Some of it from yours truly about a certain football game on the weekend. Pretty much every Jays fan choked about the way everyone got jerked around about the Ohtani watch. And then, of course, every Jet fan choked about what happened to Kyle Connor and the fact that there very quickly was announced that there would be no supplemental discipline to Ryan Strome. It's pretty clear, Reem, that the Winnipeg Jets are going to have to win some games for the time being without Kyle Connor, and we'll get a chance to see this team for the first time, beyond the remaining part of the Anaheim game where Kyle was out. And we'll talk to Mike a little, or we'll get the word from Mike actually probably in the next little bit before while we're talking to Jamie and into our segment with Jeff on how the lines will look. And as we talked about it yesterday on the program with Mike, I think there's a good chance that this might be a huge opportunity for Morgan Barron. And I've been really impressed with the way Morgan's played so far this year. He's added a little bit more. He's scored some big goals, a massive one in the game on Sunday night against Anaheim. And if they do move Barron up to that spot, they don't really have to touch lines 2 or 3. Lowry and Cole Perfetti's lines. So I'm sort of expecting it to be like that, but the bottom line is no one else is going to be feeling sorry for the Winnipeg Jets. They know what they have to do. They got to go in and beat a San Jose team that I'm not sure whether they've been catching everybody off guard, Reem, or teams haven't been taking them very seriously after the start of the season and the back-to-back 10-goal losses. But the Sharks have won a number of games over this past kind of stretch of 10 to 15. And it's not just going to be a lay-down team right now. I think they're showing that they've got a lot of fight in them and they didn't want to be embarrassed like they were at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think GM Mike Greer went in there and was like, guys, we're in the NHL. Like, come on, get your head out of your ass. And they've actually played pretty well. And you mentioned not laying down. Their most recent game against Vegas, they came back twice from 2-goal deficits, including tying the game in the dying seconds before losing in a shootout to Vegas. Just looking over their past games here. They won against Detroit in overtime, won against the Islanders 5-4 overtime, lost against the Rangers, and won against the Devils. That's just this month. And you look at these games, I mean, they're giving up a ton of goals. I don't think goaltending is a strong thing for San Jose, and now there's defense. But hey, the scoring has come up. Mikael Granlund getting some ice time and opportunity. He's playing well. Mike Hoffman, he can still score goals. So San Jose, they're not quite a pushover, but looking in the standings, they are at the bottom. 8 wins, 17 losses, 3 overtime losses, 339 points percentage, minus 54 goal differential. And I'm not sure about, we haven't heard confirmation on the goalie, but go Hellebuck here and Brossoit and try to secure the 2 points tonight and hope you can get steal one tomorrow on the back-to-back. Yeah,
it's funny. I was just going to bring that up. Here's a why not question of the day for everyone to get things going. Not Autocorp, Waverly and McGilvery with our why not question of the day. Anyone think we might see Brossoit tonight and Hellebuck tomorrow? Historically, the Jets have pretty much always run Hellebuck in the first game of those back-to-backs. And whether it's LB, whether it was Big Save Dave last year or any of the other backups that have been playing behind Hellebuck before, they pretty much have always gotten that second end of the back-to-back. But I would imagine it would maybe cross their mind to go with LB. Although, to be honest, I would have said this a lot more maybe a week and a half ago before Brossoit played the way he did against the Carolina Hurricanes. I think the way that shook out and the way that he played that night gives the Winnipeg Jets a lot of confidence that it doesn't matter who the opponent is. They're fine with playing LB. So I'm sort of with you, Remis. I expect Hellebuyck to get the nod tonight. Try and keep this winning streak for him and the team going. And then, to your point, see if LB can sort of channel what he had at Canada Life Center last Monday and backstop the Jets in a very tough spot on the second end of back-to-back nights against those Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, they've always started Hellebuyck on the first game you mentioned. And one thing that also does is it gives him an extra day of rest. That's because these days of rest here in December 2023 will pay dividends when it comes to the playoffs. That extra day needs it here. I don't know have the math on that, but look, they play tonight. So if he doesn't play tomorrow, you get 3 days in a row off. I mean, 3, that's much more than 2, and then the late flight. We're trying to maximize Hellebuyck, make sure he's ready for the playoffs, and it starts October with the season-long plan. And I would throw him in tonight, get the win, and we'll see about tomorrow. I think that's what they've done in the past, and that's going to be a tough one tomorrow, back-to-back against the Kings, who have been excellent this season.
Yeah, Getter Dunn says he thinks they'll be tonight and Helly tomorrow. I would have thought about it more, but as I say, I'm pretty sure. I would be surprised if we didn't see Hellebuyck tonight. But again, the way both goalies are playing right now in the team, maybe they want to try and see what Helly can do going head-to-head against, certainly a more lethal test than the Sharks, with all due respect to a team that has been winning more than they've been losing over the course of the last kind of 8 games or so. So listen, we'll get into this with Jamie Thomas right away when he joins us. But Remo, we got to talk about these Monday Nighters last night. I mean, those 2 games started off, pretty pedestrian for the first half, and both ended in absolutely spectacular fashion. And you would have thought with Tommy DeVito authoring a last 2 minutes game-winning drive after the Packers had come back to take the lead, they would be pretty tough to top that. Well, enter the Miami Dolphins, who blew a 14-point lead in the last 3 minutes of the game and became the first NFL team in 767 games to not win when they were up by 14 in the last 3 minutes. I went back and watched the last 5 minutes of that game again. It is still almost inconceivable that it played out the way that it did, especially when you think of Tennessee throwing up all over themselves first. I mean, this was a close game, 13-all. They're getting the ball back. They muff a punt. Miami gets it on like the 7-yard line. Quick touchdown. Tennessee gets the ball back. Almost immediately, Will Levis throws it behind Derrick Henry and backwards. Miami jumps on it. They've got another, 10, 12-yard field in for a touchdown. And at that time, the game seemed like it was over. And for a team that had the opportunity to maybe be challenging for the number 1 seed in the AFC, to let Will Levis run all over them, well, not run, but pass all over them. 2 quick drives, a 2-pointer from Mike Vrabel, who's got huge stones. And then all of a sudden, the Dolphins, I think they were still stunned. They couldn't believe they had to run the offense back out there and try and win the game. And the next thing you know, they get sacked. That's it for Tua and the boys. And man, for a team that there had been a lot of talk about who have they beaten so far this year, they've been beating up on bad teams. Well, the Titans have been a pretty bad team this year, and they just authored an incredible comeback. And it has just thrown the AFC, and now with the Giants win over the Packers, the NFC playoff spots into a complete mess. And to think that Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings, with that 3-0 win, the legendary 3-0 win in Vegas on the weekend, were the big winners of the weekend, and they're now holding down the 6th seed with a game up on the Packers, who are actually still in the playoffs, albeit at 6 and 7.
Yeah, craziness yesterday, and we have to mention the Tyreek Hill injury, Huss. I mean, that's huge for Miami. I mean, he's such a game changer with his speed, I thought he was a lock to get 200 receiving. What was his line? Like 10?
It was 109.5.
109.5, and you never want to see an injury, but it just shows what he means to that offense, what he means to the league. And see Connor in chat suggesting MVP, put him in the MVP conversation because he definitely changes them. And it is kind of, I don't know if I'm like a huge fan of these expanded playoffs because you're seeing some bad teams that have no business being in there, get in. And like, look at this race, like Atlanta, like they're terrible. Like Green Bay, Vikings. I don't know. The 6th seed, I don't think is going to be very good. And let's go up to the AFC. The AFC's not as bad, but like Indy's no good.
Well, are we sure? Are we sure? Like the Steelers have the 6th seed.
Yeah.
The Steelers just lost at home in back-to-back weeks to the 2-win Cardinals and the 2-win Patriots.
Yeah, they're not.
And yet they're still in the 6th hole. Like Joe Flacco and the Browns are like love and life. They're minus 400 to make the playoffs now at 8-5. But I mean, you've got these are the 7-6 teams in the AFC. The Steelers are in the 6th hole. The Colts right now by tiebreaker have the 7th and final spot. But then you've got 4 other teams at 7-6. Houston, Denver, Cincinnati, and the Bills. And what's nuts about the Bills is I think everyone would agree that's the most dangerous team in this group of 7-6 teams. But because of their losses earlier in the season, they lose the tiebreaker to every one of those clubs. And they still have a very difficult run to get into the playoffs just based on the tiebreaker situation for Buffalo.
Yeah, we thought Buffalo was toast. Us. But that win against the Chiefs, absolutely huge. I think that we kind of said, oh, well, there's no way they're beating the Chiefs. But you never know what's going to happen. We saw that last night. Like Miami, 14-point favorites against Tennessee. And not only did Tennessee cover and they won. And Tommy DeVito, who's becoming like America's sweetheart. You see the family tailgate they're showing.
Dude, that tailgate looked... I mean, I've been to some great tailgates before and seen some pretty incredible cuisine.
Yeah.
That was right up there. Didn't Mama DeVito make like 300 cutlets?
Yeah, I think it looked amazing. But here's the video from New York Post Sports. The DeVito. Check out this tailgate.
I know it was incredible.
I need to go to this. Look at all that food. What is that? Meatballs? I can't. Oh my god, this is. Look at how do you bring all this food? I've never been to a real tailgate like that. Look at that bread. Oh my god. So they showed this on TV yesterday, but everyone's just head over heels for Tommy DeVito. But it was Saquon Barkley, I think, huge role in that win yesterday as we watch. What are they making? Sandwiches here?
They're making maybe a chicken parm sandwich there. I mean, like, listen, what are they not making there? I mean, pretty much they've got everything. It's something else. Well, listen, I don't think we've spent the last moments speaking about Monday Night Football. I have a feeling that might come up in a moment with our next guest, although we will be focusing in on the Winnipeg Jets. Hey, one thing I wanted to get to, I see Ezzy in the chat. Shout out to Ez and the gang at Hockey Manitoba. A nice little congrats are out to a couple of young Manitobans. Avery Pickering from St. Adolphe and Sarah Manis from LaSalle have been named to Team Canada's roster for the 2024 Under-18 Women's World Championships. January 16th in Zug, Switzerland. So Avery and Sarah, well done. Congratulations and good luck representing our province wearing the red and white for Hockey Canada at the Women's World Under-18 Championships in Switzerland coming up in January. We'll pay attention to how the girls are doing there. Great news, and always nice to see Manitobans get an opportunity to represent the country. All right, Jamie Thomas is coming up with us right away. That's a guy that might have needed a drink last night. Shout out to our friends at Canadian Club. There's a CC for every occasion heading into the holidays, whether it's for a holiday gathering, gift giving, or dealing with your team blowing a 14-point lead in the last 3 minutes of a football game. We've got it all for you. All the Canadian Club favorites, original 100% rye, Canadian Classic 12 years old. And of course, there is still stock left at Manitoba Liquor Marts of the limited release CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask. The Canadian Club Invitation Series 15-year-old Sherry Cask is the signature Canadian Club Classic 12-year-old whiskey, finished with a secondary aging in Oloroso Sherry casks. All the hallmarks of a classic Canadian Club with the added richness and sweetness of sherry. Available now through the holidays while supplies last. $79.99. Pick it up along with all the other on-sale Canadian Club products at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts, and now through the holiday season. And always, please enjoy responsibly. Our friends at Manitoba Battery are ready for the holidays, but also for what's to come on the other side, and that is the deep freeze that companies are winter. Make sure you're ready for it, folks, and not on the side of the road calling a buddy for a boost or a ride. Make sure your battery is ready to go for the winter, and Manitoba Battery has you covered. You'll shop local, you'll get the best prices in town, and better yet, you won't even need to leave your house. This is how it works. Go to manitobabattery.com. Check out the prices, beating the pants off the big box stores, best in town, period. Order whatever you need, and Donnie and the gang will deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. You can also give them a call at 783-8787. Our great staff will take you through it. And if you do want a free battery test to see how you're looking heading into winter, pop by and see them, 1026 Logan Avenue. And of course, everything available there in person as well. Manitoba Battery, again, manitobabattery.com. I know a lot of you trying to, maybe get ready for some big holiday parties and whatnot. Maybe a good time to head down to Modern Man Barber Shop. I did last week. 8 locations in Winnipeg to get you looking good for the holidays, fellas, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway and Plessis Road. Modern Man Barber Shops offer a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Make an appointment and book your look via modernmanbarber.com. And of course, we got to thank Aquatech and their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk, the pool and spa experts in town, but also the experts at home renovations with Aquatech. With thousands of renos as their foundation, Aquatech can upgrade any space in your home. If you're ready to enhance your kitchen, bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. All right, big game tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. We're continuing our prayer vigil for Kyle Connor, and hopefully good news from Mike McIntyre there later on. Let's bring in Jamie Thomas of Winnipeg Jets TV. And folks, you may not know, Jamie, card-carrying member of the Miami Dolphins crew. Listen, we're going to get to hockey, but how did you sleep last night? What's your current state of mind after, one of the most stunning comebacks in recent NFL history?
I love how you bring this up now, just at the right at the tail end of what happened to the Chiefs the other night. It's like, We've
moved on. We've moved on.
It's always worse. Somebody else, someone told me. So I love when they throw those stats up on the TV where it says, okay, so for last night, it's teams leading by 14 with 3 minutes left, 700 and something to 0. So as soon as that goes up, you're like, oh, hell. And then just, you have a bad feeling in your stomach. I don't know what to tell you. Like, there was a ton of memes that went out last night. One was somebody had them, the Miami Dolphins first place in the AFC, and they just throw it away. That's what that one was. There's another meme of some kid playing quarterback that trips over something in the front room, and they're saying this is Tua without Tyreek. So it was a whole mess of things, buddy. So you shake that off. You're a game behind Baltimore for first in the conference. You still have a very nice lead on the Buffalo Bills, so you feel good where you are. It's in years past. One friend of mine is like, okay, this is the same Dolphins. They're gonna fall apart in December. I just feel much different about this team than I have for the last decade. So they'll shake this off. But that's a terrible way to lose to a horrible football team that had not won on the road so far this season.
You know what? As longtime fantasy football guys,
yeah,
in a weird way, There was it seemed like there was some divine intervention. We didn't mention this yesterday. I should have. But long time Titans legend Frank Wycheck passed away on the weekend.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, just the way that all happened with Will Levis, who had done nothing for 57 minutes.
Yeah.
He just for him to do that, it was absolutely stunning. And listen, the Dolphins have been good enough this year. They'll be fine. They're in the playoffs. But it certainly does make, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are the big winners. Even though they're 11th in the standings right now, that win over Kansas City and the Dolphins loss puts a few more options on the table for them to get in.
Yeah, and like the Dolphins and the Bills, I believe, play again a little bit the last part of the year too. So it's just the door is still open, and you wanted to close the door entirely on the Buffalo Bills to get first place in the AFC East. But again, this is the way things work. And, 2 wild finishes. Primetime football hasn't been exactly the greatest, especially on Thursday. But those were 2 crazy finishes on Monday Night Football and that doubleheader that ESPN had yesterday / TSN up here north of the border.
All right, we'll move on from last night's festivities in the National Football League to the Winnipeg Jets, and we are getting from Mike McIntyre in San Jose some breaking news here. Kyle Connor's knee injury is hopefully a 6 to 8 week recovery timeline. However, there's still some further evaluation pending, which could alter that. We'll get an official update from Rick Bowness in about an hour following the morning skate. I'll be honest, Jamie, I had sort of braced myself for something along these lines, like basically missing a couple months.
Yes.
What the biggest worry is that with as dangerous as a hit that was, like on the knee, with the way that he got hurt, there's the potential that, I mean, that could be it for the season. So that is what I am most concerned about hearing. And to be honest, I think I would take 6 to 8 weeks right now, knowing that it is, that Kyle Connor will be back. Of course, they've got the player break during that period of time as well. So you're maybe not missing as many games. But just reaction to that, what was your thoughts on, what you maybe were expecting or fearful, like most Winnipeg Jet fans?
Yeah, I think it was the same feeling that you had when Gabe Balharry went down against Los Angeles Kings in October. You're like, that can't be good. And the fact that the Jets and Balharry, for that matter, dodged the bullet the way that they did was fortunate. And I think what Balharry has provided, and I'll get to Connor in a second, is kind of like an inside look. Not many people talk about, and I'm talking about players, about the amount of work that goes into recovering from an injury like that. And I think Balharry's been pretty clear about that, about how lonely it is, how long it takes to get back up to speed. And the frustration behind an injury that is preventable. So I think some people may be frustrated with the fact there isn't a suspension, but I don't think any suspension that Ryan Strome could have got would make anybody feel any better about the situation, because your main concern is about Kyle Connor and how long he's going to be out of the lineup. So if 6 to 8 weeks is the timeline, then you take a big sigh of relief and you move on, because you realize it could have been a lot worse. So I think that the best way to describe that is we're still waiting to see what Rick Bowness says. But if that is what it is, then I think they've dodged another bullet on that one, because they do have a lot of depth up front to deal with this type of stuff. But you also see what life without Kyle Connor is, especially on the power play. The other night against Anaheim is not exactly the best defending team in the world while shorthanded. So you can't replace what Kyle Connor provides for your lineup. And unfortunately, at this point, from what it seems, will be either just under 2 months or 2 month a time frame.
Yeah. There's listen, I know you said, hey, a suspension's not going to make anybody feel better. It might. I mean,
if it was 20 games,
put it this way, it doesn't matter to the Jets. It's not going to change a damn thing for Kyle Connor's status right now and what happens going forward. But I mean, I still maintain that put it this way. If this was an East Coast game involving one of the other top scorers in the league, say maybe an Austin Matthews or something like that. Just me. I don't maybe think that they're immediately going, yeah, let's move on. That's no suspension. They deemed it a reckless play. It was 5 minutes and a game misconduct, and it's knocking out one of the top goal scorers in the league for potentially 2 months or more.
Yeah. Great example, though, Huss, is like, just as you talked about that, look what happened with the reaction with Brad Marchand and Timothy Liljegren of the Maple Leafs. That's a great example that, Leaf Nation thought that was a slew foot. He was trying to hurt him. The reaction was exactly what you said. It's not even close to what the reaction is to the loss of Kyle Connor. And that, to me, is one of the biggest travesties out there about the importance and the quality and the elite player that Kyle Connor is, that not more is being said about this, because it is bad to have him out of the game in any type of way, especially in that fashion. So the reaction to it is only big here, not big enough across the country, in my opinion.
Mitch Clinton. Interesting. We were just talking about this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had thrown this out on the why not question of the day, assuming that Connor Hellebuck would be the guy starting. But that, you'd maybe give some consideration to LB. Mitch Clinton's reporting that LB's in the starter's net right now.
Okay.
And Jamie, that is very different than the way the Winnipeg Jets have normally handled back-to-backs. I mean, I can't remember, in fact, a time where Hellebuck did not play the first game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're looking at these two teams, San Jose and LA. LA is one of the top teams in the league. San Jose, to put it mildly, isn't.
They are not.
But I think part of the reason why I thought Hellebuck would go is that I think the way Brossoit played against the Carolina Hurricanes gave them immense confidence that he'd be able to go and, continue that against the Kings. But interesting little change-up right now, and I think with the way the schedule's put out, does give them that opportunity, maybe to give Helly the extra day of rest before seeing what he can do to continue their winning streak against one of the biggest tests in the league.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, we'll hear from the Jets. Clearly, this is probably the plan, right? It's probably that this was always going to be LB's game. But that being said, the way he played against Carolina, it was the game that we had to see as people that cover the team, and I'm sure for Jets fans, because you had to know in your heart of hearts that this is what's not going to be a David Riddick situation where you're not quite sure what you're going to get night in and night out whenever he took the net. And Connor Hellebuck's going to need his breaks, but you're going to need to know that you can win with Laurent Brossoit in net. He proved that the other night. I feel like he's back. There's always that adjustment period of coming back. And yes, he's played. He knows a lot of the players, but the system that's in place, there's a lot of things you have to figure out as a goaltender. So Brossoit's in a good spot. This is the right thing. And also, Los Angeles Kings playing the way that they have been this year, it will be a stiff test, and you have to have your best goaltender in the net. So yes, it's not traditionally the way things go, but the right call clearly for those who get paid to make these types of decisions.
Well, we'll hesitate and reserve judgment until we see what happens with the games on the right call. But to be honest, it did, and I think we were speaking about this last week. It does make sort of sense to do exactly that. There's something to be said, about the starter always wanting to be with the fresher team, and that sort of put the backups in that tough spot where you're playing on the second end of a back-to-back already, and you don't have your top goaltender. I have no issue with this. I mean, LB, I think, if he can play the way he did against Carolina, he'll give the Jets a very good chance to win this game against a Sharks team that, as bad as they looked earlier on, have not been pushovers lately. And it certainly gives the Winnipeg Jets the best chance to ice their best lineup to take on the Los Angeles Kings when they're getting right back at it tomorrow at Crypto.
Yeah, and listen, the last two times, the two visits to San Jose last year were less than memorable. I was on those trips, and for whatever reason, I know they ran to a hot goaltender in James Reimer, but the Jets didn't have their best games in San Jose. Clearly a new team and everything this year, so you feel better about that. And then Mitch just tweeted out. So Velarde's with Scheifele and Ehlers. So, on the right side, that was just a matter of time. So they have Morgan Barron, looks like the right side of the second line with Domestikov and Perfetti. So that's, Morgan Barron, the way he played the other night, deserves a promotion to the top six. That's just the way it is. And it doesn't look like there's any call-ups happening at this point. And, I think Dave Minuk made a great point the other day on Twitter about, a lot of people are probably asking about, Brad Lambert, Chibrikov. Lambert is, as Dave pointed out the other day, he's developing at center, and he's not going to play center in the National Hockey League. And the Jets have enough depth up front to withstand this for the time being. Whether or not they call somebody up for the game in Los Angeles, or maybe if somebody's on their way, then we'll have to see at this point. But I do like the fact that Gabe Balharry's up on the top line with Scheifele and Ehlers. That was where eventually he was going to be. But Ehlers playing as well as he had been had kind of slowed things down a little bit. So there's the tweet from Mitch.
Yeah. I had thought that there was, a couple ways that they could have gone. Mark Scheifele's going to be anchoring that top line.
Yes.
And I know Ken had said that maybe this opens an opportunity at some point to get Perfetti playing with Scheifele, which I think has some intriguing possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, Ehlers is flying. He's connecting there, and I think it makes a lot of sense to get Gabriel Velarde up there. I wasn't sure whether it would happen right away. And I think part of that, when we talk about Morgan Barron, they had the opportunity, and they did this in the game, pull Barron from the fourth line right up to the top line. And man, he looked good. He's looked good all year, Jamie. But the play that he made was a huge part of turning things around. He ended up scoring the goal, but that started on a neutral zone turnover with a great stick where he turned the puck going back around. Listen, as much as it sucks for Kyle Connor to be out for an extended period of time, this does happen. And with it comes opportunities for other players. And for a team like the Jets that have been so deep, that have had contributions from so many different players, there was going to be a guy or two that gets a nice bump up. And Morgan Barron has an opportunity to kind of show that he's much more than a bottom six player if he can click, and he'll be playing with Nemetsnikov and Cole Perfetti on a new look line 2, line 3, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and one thing I do love about what Rick Bowness has done this year, and of course Scott Arniel before that, like whenever the Jets are coming off the power play, it's always it's the Lowry line that comes out. Now, Nita Ryder's on that second power play unit, so what Bones does is he throws out Morgan Barron with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. So that's worked very effectively after the Jets at the tail end of a power play, and they want more pressure coming. And what better line to throw out there after their power play than the third line? So I like the idea of rewarding guys for having, that fourth line was arguably the Jets' best line in the game against the Colorado Avalanche. It was a continuation, some more solid play the other night as well against the Anaheim Ducks. So why not give Morgan Barron a shot there? And thank goodness the Jets got Vladislav Nemestikov back recently, because you're really pushing the depth chart if he wasn't back. But again, that move was made in the offseason to give you more depth up front instead of being top six heavy as they have been in years past. And now this is showing, since they held in there without Gabe Velarde, and whatever time frame it is without Kyle Connor, they do have the forwards and the depth to kind of withstand that, not for forever, but for a short period of time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Vlad, because
underappreciated still,
dude. He kind of came in very quietly at the deadline.
Yes,
became very important down the stretch. Showed that I know we kind of, we make all these Swiss Army knife references, and of course Nino's the Swiss guy. But in a lot of ways, Vlad is the multi-use tool that is played all up and down the lineup. And for a guy that missed 3 games, he went right back into the lineup against the Anaheim Ducks, and he was front and center as well in that comeback in the third period. I do wonder where the Jets would be without Vlad Nemetsnikov. Put it this way, it wouldn't be in first place tonight if they can win against San Jose.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's a understated grade. And there's every coach that comes along always has their guy. And it looked like Vladislav Nemestikov was that guy for Rick Bowness. But another thing that I really appreciate about Vladdy, outside of the fact that he plays up and down your lineup, is he has some grit to his game, and he will not back down from anybody. And I know he got hurt in that collision with in the Oilers game against Darnell Nurse, but he's not backing down from that situation, right? He's just he's right in there. It doesn't matter the size of the individual. He'll give him a stick. He'll give him a quick whack. He'll hit the guy hard. So he hits guys to not take them out of the game, but what I'm saying, he's hitting to send a message a little bit sometimes too. So I love that grit in his game, and the fact that wherever he is, he's reliable. And that's what you need when you're challenge, when your depth is being challenged the way it is right now.
You know, one of the other interesting kind of developments over the last kind of 2 weeks has been the rotation on the blue line. We saw Nate Schmidt move out for Declan Chisholm. Chisholm and Stanley playing against the Carolina Hurricanes. Big Stan getting the last couple games. And Mike reporting now from San Jose that it looks like Nate Schmidt is going to be back in the lineup playing with Dylan Samberg, where he and Samberg in that third pairing role have actually had very good results so far this year. Like, I always say, and listen, I know people slag on Schmidt because of his contract, and yeah, he's making a lot of money. But when he's been out there, when he's been tasked with keeping goals out of their net, they have done a very good job on that. And I got to tell you, Jamie, I think competition, legitimate competition, where guys are in and out of the lineup, is certainly seemingly bringing out the best. Chisholm was really good. I think Stanley played some of his better hockey in the last couple games. And you know you're going to see a motivated Nate Schmidt going back into the lineup tonight to sort of remind the coaches, hey, I'm still the number one choice, right? Like, give me a few games.
Yeah, the reason why, if there's any complaints at all about Nate Schmidt, is clearly his contract. And people, yes, he's in a bit of a point slump right now, but he's a guy that you can take out of your lineup in order to get Chisholm and Stanley the games that they need to play to stay fresh. But you know he's going to go back in. You don't have to worry about him because he's a veteran player. You don't have to. Yes, it's hard to get back into the swing of things, but he's been around long enough. He knows what part of the game, where he has to lay back, where he has to jump into the play. That's the part you don't have to worry about with Nate Schmidt. Whereas it's a little more challenging for the Stanleys and the Chisholms to play 2 NHL games and then sit and watch for a bit. You don't have that concern with Nate Schmidt. And they can't let him sit too long, just like they won't be able to keep, Chisholm and Stanley out of the lineup so it looks like, your 5 defensemen are set. Rick Bowness has already said that. I have my top 5 defensemen. Now it's just a battle to see who that 6th defenseman is. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because as he has said numerous times, you got to have 8 defensemen to win in this league because of injuries. And that is working out very well for the Winnipeg Jets in this situation. So good to see that Nate Schmidt, if indeed back in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, and T. Will with the chat, I'd love Schmidt at $1 million a year. I mean, listen, there's not anything anyone can do about the money. And I mean, when guys are overperforming the contracts that they've signed, no one's saying, hey, slide that guy an extra couple mil. Look how well he's doing. I mean, they've got the cap. That would be one of the least team-friendly contracts, to say the least. But listen, it was signed. They acquired him. Guy's been a good teammate. And the bottom line is nobody cares what guys' salaries are once the puck drops. It's about getting the job done right now. And, for a blue line that had a lot of concern coming in here, Jamie, and I'll give the entire team credit as well for the way the forwards are playing. Mm-hmm. They've consistently improved defensively. Maybe I shouldn't even say consistently. I think it's been pretty consistent all year. I'm not even sure it's been improved. I mean, you can kind of see the metrics have maybe regressed a little bit. But at the same time, the goaltending's gone up after a little bit of a more average start. So, all in all, when it comes down to that's got to be the foundation of this team, and that's how they need to continue to play in the absence of Kyle Connor. Taking care of your goaltender first. There's still enough talent on this team to score goals. Yeah, and I think, that's not being – I don't think enough's being said about, it's been 15 or 16 games that they've, with a streak of giving up 3 goals or less. That's how you win in this league. They're defending well. Sure, the goaltending has been great, but the fact that those high danger chances aren't as high as they were in years past is critical at this point. And so as much as we're giving the depth up front a lot of credit, we have to be giving the depth on the blue line the exact same credit. And to your point, this is a blue line that maybe there were some question marks heading in, but I think they've answered that and then some. The way they played and allowed Connor Hellebuck to get to the standard that we're so used to seeing. Maybe that new contract was getting to him earlier in the year, but that's so far in the rearview mirror now. You don't have to worry about that. And it looks like Laurent Brossoit is getting to the standard that people in the city and the organization expected of him. So right now, everything is working except for the fact that you just keep losing key players to injuries. Yeah, well, you bring a couple guys back and something else happens. And, hey, it's going to happen to all teams so far. I mean, the Jets, certainly on the blue line, have been uncharacteristically fortunate that nobody really has gone down. And that's a big part of why there's a lot of questions as to what happens next month when Ville Heinola is ready to play. Yeah, I think at this point, they've got to cross that bridge when they come to it. because all of these guys can play a role on the club. If you've got 9 healthy defensemen, you got to figure something out because you won't have 8, but it's not guaranteed that everyone's going to be good to go once Villy is ready to come back. You know, Jamie, before we go, 2 big games on the West Coast, some late nights. People can have a nap after work and then get ready to stay up for both of these. But then the team comes back, and heading into Christmas, what a homestand we've got coming up, starting off with what very well could be a battle for first place in the Central Division with a very recent Stanley Cup champion and the measuring stick for the Central Division in Nate McKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's so huge. And the way that they handled the Avalanche the other day, Colorado will be coming here with a little bit, but it's a great homestand. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a heck of a way to go into the holidays. You have an original 6 week coming up with Montreal, Detroit, and Boston to close out the pre-Christmas schedule. But to kick things off against the Avalanche on the Saturday is so huge. And I can imagine, there'll be a lot of Jet fans ready to go on Saturday after extended time away. And the way the team continues to play consistently and to hang around the conversation as one of the best teams in the Central Division and in the Western Conference should have people raring to go on the Saturday. There hasn't been enough Saturday home games. Let's just say that here in Winnipeg.
No, and the schedule this year has been a heck of a lot better. I mean,
way better. Better.
I think last Saturday was only the second Saturday that the team hadn't played. And I know they had a couple of home games, but they were matinees.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome, and hopefully we can get some nice crowds. And then 3 original 6 teams next week: Habs, Red Wings, and then that Boston Bruins game on Friday night heading into the break. Hard to imagine a better setup. And listen, bring it on. The way the Winnipeg Jets are playing right now, I want to see them play a team like Colorado at home. I want to see them play against the Boston Bruins.
Yes.
Although it would be nice to have one Kyle Connor, who the Bruins famously passed over 3 consecutive picks in the first round, allowing him to get to the Winnipeg Jets. That's always an interesting side story. If you just jumped in late, we got a huge crew in here. Hit that thumbs up, folks, if you haven't already. And if you're new around here, welcome. Winnipeg Sports Talk, live every day at 1 o'clock. Hit the subscribe button. Jamie, Kyle Connor reportedly out 6 to 8 weeks. We'll get confirmation on that. I think the term Mike used was hopefully. We'll get confirmation from Rick on that. And, of course, Laurent Brossoit in the pipes tonight, it looks like, which means Connor Hellebuck will go tomorrow against the Kings and all likelihood against the Avalanche coming up on Saturday night. What do you have cooking on with the content team right now as we head into the holidays?
Well, the ground control of the official podcast, Winnipeg Jets, should be on its way out. I came up with a brilliant idea. I don't know if it's brilliant, to play a board game. We played Catan with Jeff Malott and Dean Stewart of the Manitoba Moose, and they were great. And, we've seen the Moose holiday video. We talked about who's the most annoying person on the team, who's the most emotional, just getting into the fun stuff. And, they're on the road for a long time, and Catan apparently is the board game of choice. So for anybody out there looking for Christmas gift ideas, I had a ton of fun, and they were fantastic. The guys in the Moose don't get enough credit for just how good they are dealing with us. And so it's a great 25 to 30-minute chat with 2 great members of the Manitoba Moose. Coming up in the podcast today.
We got to get Malott on this week as well.
Oh, my gosh. He tells a great story about learning the banjo. You're going to love it. It's just apparently he's not very good at it, but he tried to take it up the other day. So
I'll tell you what, when his career comes to an end, he could walk into acting, maybe a sitcom or something. Like, how good was he in that Moose Christmas video? All the guys were good, but he was the star of the show. That was just phenomenal content from the team.
Yeah, it really was. And for all the lines that he had to have, it's great. And then, of course, Ty Bauer being John McClane, dressed up as him in the video. It's perfect. And they tell a great story about, this is one guy that's going to, when his hockey career is over, you would fully expect Ty Bauer to go off the grid, right? He's just a good Alberta boy that wants to just work on the farm and cut wood kind of thing. And great guy like that. They have great stories about Chibrikov. And how about the turtleneck sweater on Reichel, right? It's just like, it was, and the pajamas that the rookies had to wear, like that's some serious buy-in, because you can't tell me that you're not going to be bringing this video later. There's Milan. Like, what a great actor here. So it's just, I mean, that's not acting. That's just natural. You know who's a great actor? Jeff Hamilton. So thank goodness you're having him on the show, because there is no better actor in this city than Jeff Hamilton. Let me tell you that.
Well, you know what? Jeff Malott, Jeff Hamilton, we both can
just
agree.
Ties it perfectly.
They're both major hunks. I'll tell you that much. And we're going to get them on right away. Jamie, shout out to you. Great commissionering this year. Ready for the playoffs. Let's do it.
Yeah. Good luck, man. I'll be watching.
Appreciate it. Kate, thanks for doing this. We'll see you at the rink next week.
You bet.
All right, good stuff with Jamie Thomas. And yeah, speaking of that, I wanted to say this right now. I was late night, I was screwing around with the computer, and I was looking ahead. There's a lot of good seats available for these games. And I know we've talked a lot about attendance. Listen, we've got 3 big original 6 teams coming in next week. But we've always heard people, hey, we need good Saturday games. Listen, Avalanche coming in Saturday night during, well, not quite the holidays, but December 16th. If you've been thinking about getting to a game, I would suggest Saturday night would be a pretty damn good one to go to. I'm going to be there. I can't wait for it. Go to winnipegjets.com/tickets and the website for some other great gift ideas, deals and whatnot heading into the holidays. But would love to see a few more butts in the seats for a team that, could be back in first place if they can win tonight against the San Jose Sharks. Certainly the product on the ice has been worthy, I think, of Jet fan support. All right. Hammer, as we mentioned, is coming up. Let's give a shout out to the gang over at Vita Health Fresh Market. The holidays are here. We're going to be heading into 2024. New Year's resolutions, taking care of yourself. Guys, I know we talked a lot about Men's Health Month last month in November. We got to be on top of that 12 months a year. And Vita Health is the spot for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries. And supplements like Prairie Naturals, Canada's #1 line of men's health supplements, helping support the changing needs of a man's body and assisting with prostate health, andropause, low libido, testosterone, stress, male energy, and performance. Get on down to Vita Health. We'll be supporting a great local company, family-owned and operated since 1936, and carrying Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too, perfect for holiday usage and gift giving. Head on down to Vita Health, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 Winnipeg locations and online at myvita.ca. Wallace & Wallace is busy right now. Listen, they're the fencing experts. They've been doing it since 1946, and we've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. They're also Winnipeg's leaders in overhead garage doors. And that overhead garage door of yours had lots of ups and downs this summer and fall, but it's about to work a whole lot harder heading into winter, because winter puts much more stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Call Wallace & Wallace to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And guys, if you're looking into your closet and thinking, I need to step up my menswear game heading into 2024, now would be a great time for a friendly nudge to that special someone to say, the easiest way you can take care of me for the holidays is an F Apparel gift card, which I can go down and use on amazing prices on beautiful custom-made suits and clothing to fit. You'll never look better. Suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Gift cards on sale right now. You can get them online at that's EPHapparel.com. You can also make an appointment to go in and get fitted from the guys of a big Boxing Day sale coming up right after Christmas Day. And of course, you can pop down and see him in person at 190 Smith Street at fapparel.com. All right. Let's bring in the hammer. Jeff Hamilton, the Godfather, well on his way to playoff glory. In fact, the Media League, the top 3 teams of the Media League are with us right now. Michael Remis, Jeff Hamilton, and yours truly. What a season it's been. Are you ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm ready for the playoffs. I'm ready for my first round bye. How are you feeling going into the first week of action?
I got Ted Wyman. Does that count as a bye or no?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a bye. Yeah, it's about as good as what me and Remo got right now. Remo actually squeezed it out. I think me and Remo tied for what, 10-3,
10-4. I was 9-5.
Right, 10-4. So Remo had the points, so he went up first. So I was talking a big game. I was pretty much leading the castle the whole time. And I thought you were going to lead off by saying, "Hey, Hammer, what's going on, man? How you doing?" And I was going to say, "Hey, Huss, I'm feeling positive and testing negative." That's why I wasn't there last week. I got COVID last week. I was my third bout with it, so I'm 3-0 against COVID. Although it got me for a couple days, but I was sorry to miss the party. It looked like an awesome time.
Hey, it was a good time. We'll get out during the holidays for sure. There'll be plenty of opportunity to do that. But yeah, I was just looking. I was really hoping to win and be in the mix for one of those buys. And then I ran up against Billick's team. I don't think he made the playoffs, but he managed to beat me by over 100.
195 points did he put up or something like that?
195 points.
That's got to be a season high.
Everybody went off. So he went out with a bang. I'll hopefully save my better week for coming up next week.
Mike's getting a lot of credit for obviously the report on Kyle Connor, and rightfully so. But if you look at last week, did you see me? You see me literally edge him by less than 1 point to eliminate him from the playoffs. That was a tough loss.
The beauties of fantasy football. You know what? Speaking of Mike, we got that report from Mike, who's at the morning skate right now in San Jose. It sounds like Laurent Brossoit is getting the start. But Kyle Connor, and in Mike's words, hopefully out 6 to 8 weeks. There's more testing to be done. We'll get confirmation from Rick Bowness. It could be worse. Is sort of, if you want to put the positive side of things. I mean, I think there was always the worry that with an injury like that, I mean, it could take a guy out for the season. But at the same time, I mean, assuming that we're talking about 6 to 8 weeks, couple months, a big loss for a team and a guy that was really getting it done this year, as he usually does.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at a potentially two month absence and view it as a positive. But I think, if it does turn out to be 6 to 8 weeks, that is a massive piece of good news for the Winnipeg Jets, because I think there was clearly there was major concern around the organization, but when you look at the injury, you look at, all the contact where, the direct contact on the knee, you look at Kyle Connor's face. I mean, everyone's trying to play doctor, watching it go down. I think there was a lot of people concerned that this was a serious injury, like, multiple tears. And from the sounds of it, there might not even be a tear. The buzz is that I don't think much is going to come out of Rick Bowness's press conference today. I think they're still waiting on answers, results to see what the extent of the damage is. But the fact that they're looking at I think I heard Mike say this on your show yesterday, that they're looking at weeks rather than months at this point, I think is a super positive sign for the Winnipeg Jets, because losing Kyle Connor for the season would not have been, obviously a good thing. And just given the way he's playing and the offense he provides for this team, it's good news that he could be back as early as, do the math, end of January. That's a pretty good news for what we saw a couple days ago.
Yeah, well, and the end of January, the Jets play the Leafs on the 27th, and then don't play again until I want to say February 6th or 7th, because the All-Star game is in there as well as the player break. So, I mean, if Kyle Connor could come back after that player break, I mean, that would be a huge win. And the thing about Connor is we don't really have any history. Right. To find out about his recovery time. And again, different injuries, but I mean, he's basically barely missed games with the exception of COVID since he became a Winnipeg Jet. And not that you want to find out, but they're going to find out who can step up in the meantime with their number one goal scorer out for a significant period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even before that, I mean, I heard Jamie kind of talking about it in your last segment, Gabe Balharry was talking about the challenges of going through rehab, right? You hear it from every guy. Obviously there's the physical component, but there's the mental component of not having gone through a significant injury that Kyle Connor is going to have to go through now. And that's not an easy thing, but he's a committed guy, and certainly with the technology we have these days and everything, if he can prevent a tear, because that's what it says to me. The 6 to 8 week timeline tells me there's no tear. So if he can escape that's massive. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is opportunity, right? I mean, this isn't. Look, the Jets have certainly, I don't want to say surprised, but have certainly, I think, shocked a lot of people around the league just with how well they're playing. Their 5-on-5 play is just incredible. Special teams could obviously use a boost here, but this team has the inner workings and has been playing a style of game that's going to allow them to get through this. I've heard Scott Billick talk about that on the show. I think he wrote about it too. Other guys have kind of shared that sentiment. I do think that this team is in a position to weather that storm, and in previous years there'd be an injury and it would almost kind of be, you could almost feel the air like release from the team, right? And this year with just the way players are competing, you have Morgan Barron, who looks like he's getting that shot up the lineup. I mean, he's certainly deserving of that and has been this season. So I think there are options there, but I also think the Jets need to start looking. I think they need to start looking for some goal power here, because that word hopefully, while promising, isn't a guarantee. This isn't a guarantee that Kyle Connor is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and if he isn't, if it's worse than first thought, they're going to need a lot of help there. But they do have a lot of options in house. They certainly have been playing a strong 5-on-5 game. If they can pick up special teams, that I don't want to say that 6 weeks or 8 weeks is going to fly by, but they'll certainly be in a much better spot if they can get some help out there too.
Well, I mean, and speaking of special teams, listen, the power play looked discombobulated after the Connor injury, and of course Scheifele dropped the glove, so he also wasn't on the power play for that entire 5 minutes. But I mean, they were drawing penalties all night. That is going to be an area that is going to, I would imagine, be worked on extensively in their limited practice time, Jeff, because it really will be new looks. There'll be new players involved on both units. If you take out Kyle Connor, and obviously Scheifele's going to be back. I mean, you're not taking both of those guys out like happened on the 5-minute major. There's a lot of work to do to get that unit in. But at the same time, and we knew this was going to happen, the PK has really come around. And I mean, I think back to the penalty killing in maybe the Jets' signature win of the season last Thursday against the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, the Avs are high octane when it comes to moving that puck. And what was it, about 45 seconds of 5-on-3? To me, the crucial point in the game that allowed the Winnipeg Jets to, to get a massive 2 points and move on and keep that win streak going. So, as much as, listen, I think we have to realize that the goal scoring might not be where it is when Kyle Connor's in the lineup. I think that's a logical deduction to make. But with the way this team's been playing defensively, with the way the goalies are running right now, in particular Connor Hellebuck, and the way the team's sort of buying into play that way, I think they're set up better, especially with the depth of the club that we've talked about all season long, to weather this. They're in better shape to weather this than they would have been in the last few seasons.
Yeah, and I go as far as to say it's not even just a talent pool thing. I think the culture there alone is a big factor in weathering these kind of storms, weathering the ups and downs of a season. I think the cohesion that we're clearly seeing in the locker room this season is going to benefit them, through these challenges, right? I mean, it's interesting because I was looking at, obviously the Jets. I think Colorado jumped ahead of them now in the Central, but to get that victory over the weekend and to move into first place. I mean, to me, like, that was the same thing as last year. I looked at I searched on Twitter. I used my handle and then Jets first place Central, and it literally came up December 9th, 2022, that the Jets moved into first place in the Central Division last season. Obviously, it was December 10th they moved into first place this year. But I don't think they're anything like last year's team for those exact reasons you just mentioned, Haas. The 5-on-5 play, so much different. The discipline they have in their between the blue lines, so much different. It's a team that is working together. They're looking a lot. I mean, there are some lines that are struggling right now. Something's got to give with that second line, obviously. But this is a team that I think plays a complete game. They bought into it. I think the maturity level of this team has gotten to a point now where, you have guys that are encouraging other players in the locker room to play that style, and more so than anything else, when you get the results out of that style of play, then you commit to playing that game. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Winnipeg Jets, and that commitment, while Certainly there's the talent there and the depth, as you mentioned. I think it's the systems work and the ability to play within that system and to excel in that system that is going to be the biggest part, I think, when it comes to weathering any kind of storm here.
You just mentioned the possibility of making a move. Now, I think that in the short term, the Jets are going to see how things go. Balharry's going to move up with Scheifele and Ehlers. Morgan Barron's getting a bump up. But I think there will be some consideration of potentially adding a player. I'm seeing in the chat a couple people asking about Jacob Vrana, who found his name on the waiver wire today. He has an expiring contract at the end of the year. He makes $2.6 million. He's 27 years old. I mean, back in 18-19 and 19-20, he had back-to-back 24 and 25 goal seasons. And at times, he's been, a really effective scorer in the league. He had 13 goals and 6 assists in 19 points in 26 games with the Wings in 21-22. Last year didn't go well, though. 5 games with Detroit before being sent to Grand Rapids. Ended up in St. Louis and scored 10 goals in 20 games. But this year, it obviously hasn't been working out. And I'm not sure. Remis, help me out here. Was Vrana in the player assistance program at some point?
I think yes, he was. He came back last year in December. He went in October 19 to the program that is designated to offer players treatment for mental health and ranging to substance abuse. So he came on for a couple months last season, and he was asked why he was in the program, and he said he didn't feel like sharing anything.
So and again, this was before, it looked like, when he made it to St. Louis last year, a really excellent start. They didn't make the playoffs, and now it hasn't gone well. So, and I haven't heard the reports on why he's ending up on waivers. And listen, if a guy's having a lot of problems, that's getting him off St. Louis, I'm not sure whether the Jets would be in on it. But it is an intriguing name of a guy that can score goals at the NHL level, Jeff. If the team wanted to take a flyer on a player without any commitment to a contract beyond this year for a young man that, might come into a situation like this and be able to really help for a couple months while Kyle Connor isn't there. It's intriguing to talk about.
Yeah, certainly intriguing to talk about, Huss, but even some of the points you made, I'll add another one. Sometimes you put guys on waivers like that because you want them to regain their confidence, that you're not worried about them being taken, or you don't care if they're being taken, obviously. I put them at risk there. So I think, any team, whether it's the Jets or somebody else who finds themselves in injury trouble, they have guys that go in and do their homework. So, I think when you look at that kind of production, that's something, that especially when you look at the 10 goals in 20 games with St. Louis last season, those are things that suggest that this guy, can catch fire, that he can, obviously can score goals. Then you look at the production this year, and then you look at, maybe some of the history, as you mentioned, the going into the league's, I think you said substance, program and
the player assistance program. I'm not sure whether it's for sure
totally. Right.
Substance abuse. There could be a number of things.
Great. Thank you for correcting me on that one. And so, there's might be some stuff there. So, it's intriguing. It's certainly a guy who probably fits the bill in some ways, particularly around the offensive side of the game. But I think there's lots of guys out there. I think there's not tons necessarily, but there are players out there that, like of that caliber player, if you will, that might have a little less to deal with, or might have more, not have confidence issues or whatever's plaguing him at this point that's leading to him going on waivers. But again, I think it's whether it's Vrana or somebody else or just, I think right now the Jets have a tendency to just stick with who's there, right? And I think that's the interesting part. Now, I'd almost be looking at the Moose. Now, I know that's not exactly, whether it's Lambert, Chabrikov, these guys are having good seasons with the Moose. And I think, it'd be quite interesting that if Kyle Connor is out long-term, or even if he's out these 2 months, if it would give an opportunity to one of those guys to come up from the farm team, to give it a shot, right? Because to me, it's it's great that a Morgan Barron can be offensive and, he can be playing with confidence. And I know Rick Bowness likes him, that East Coast connection and whatever. But, I don't know if Morgan Barron on your second line is a recipe. If we're talking about this team being a Stanley Cup contender of competing at the end, going through the grueling NHL playoffs, like Morgan Barron can't be on your second line. Like it's not what stacked teams look like, and especially when you have a
but
second
we're not
line.
talking about the playoffs right now. We're talking about getting through these next 2 months while Kyle Connor's
for sure. But my point is though you're replacing a top line forward or top 6 forward in this case. Can you start plugging players in that aren't top 6 forwards into roles? Yeah, you could probably get away with it for 2 months and possibly tread water or whatever. I mean, maybe even do well. But it's just I think when you look at roles players are good at and they excel at, Morgan Barron's kind of a deeper third line scoring option, whereas like a Chibikov from the Moose would be a great addition, right? He's an offensive guy. That would be the role that he would play. And so I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more. I don't even know if it's guts, because I don't want to say it's guts, but a little bit more gambling on bringing some younger guys up and seeing if they can excel. And to the point I made earlier, this is to me, it's like, this is the culture you want to bring players into right now. I don't think the Jets have been in a situation where they've been all that comfortable bringing up guys from the Moose and putting them into that locker room. Right now is the time to do it. And if it, you don't have to do it forever. Maybe you do it for a couple weeks. Give those guys a cookie for what they've been doing down on the farm and bring up and get some of that confidence.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think I guess I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, like based on what we've got right now with these lines tonight, who are you taking out of the lineup to test out a young player that may or may not be ready? Like, I think right now.
Axel.
Yeah.
Like I know he's been playing well, but he was out last. Like I'm just like, move. That would be the guy probably, or one. You're not taking out follow out Gustafson. Another option potentially. Like I don't know. Like that's
keep in mind the role those guys are playing right now. They're playing fourth line, and they're very important on the penalty kill right now.
100%.
Chibikov, like, listen, he's got a lot of talent, and I think he projects to potentially be a middle 6 forward in the NHL. He's got 8 goals. He's minus 12 right now. I think these guys are still really learning the pro game. And listen, if it comes out where you're sort of you're put in a situation where a couple other guys go down, yeah, but I don't think that's their first choice right now. If it was their first choice, wouldn't they be on the team?
Well, they're not their first choice. That's why they're replacements. You know what I mean? Like, so, but was their second choice Morgan Barron on the second line when they decided to make these lines for this season? No, probably not. Like, I'm just saying it's not what he was doing in training camp, Huss. It's what he was doing well in training camp, and they've been high on this guy for a while. It's what he's doing right now that's impressive. And so if you're looking to fill a middle 6 or a top 6 option, I'm just saying that might be a little more punch and play them while they're playing confidently. And like I said, it's not one of those, like, bring them up for a couple weeks. Be part of the process maybe. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting that what they have right now isn't working or isn't going to work or anything like that. It would just be nice to see some of those guys who are excelling down on the Moose come into this locker room and see what they can do with this team. That's all.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think there's a big downside of it. The only thing is when I look at these lines tonight and say it doesn't work with Barron, although I think he's played well enough that he certainly has put himself at the front of the line for an opportunity to move up. But listen, if it doesn't go down, it doesn't work out, he can absolutely play on the third line with Lowry. And Nito Niederreiter can move up. And listen, if we're talking about a guy that can play extended period of time, giving everything that Rick Bowness wants in both ends, I think it's pretty hard to argue that Nito Niederreiter would not be a more logical choice than one of the guys that have never even played an NHL game.
For sure. Like, I'm not saying right now he wouldn't be a better option. I'm just saying right now you could, if you brought those guys up, you give them the experience, the development comes quicker. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that those guys should be, moved into the second line right away and whatever, but why not give them a shot? Why not give them a game? Why not see what they can do? Like, they play the same systems on the Moose. It's not like you have to come up and teach this guy a new playbook. You know, I that's all I'm saying. I mean, it's kind of funny to me right now that we're even kind of debating it, because I don't think that's necessarily the better option, what I'm suggesting. I just think it seems like the opportunity right now to bring up those guys, ride the momentum they've had, and put guys into a position or a role that they're used to. Because what do we often see? These guys coming up and playing, you know, top 6 guys on the Moose, playing third, fourth line, asked to do completely different things. Why not ask them to do the same thing, you know, here? And I mean, I understand people go, yeah, okay, they're 20 years old, they're young, you know, and that's fair, but you don't really know what you got until you give it a shot. And 20 isn't all that, you know, it's obviously young, but it's not super young. It's not 18. And we see guys impress on different teams across the league seemingly every week who are 18, 19, 20 years old. That's all I'm suggesting. It's opened up an opportunity. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of those guys here in February if it is a longer term injury.
Oh, well, hey, dude, listen, this could be a very different conversation on Friday. Never mind February. Right. I mean, you know, if somebody else goes down, if things don't work now that Kyle Connor's out and they're kind of rejigging these lines a little bit, I do think everything's on the table. I would just say that, listen, the way the team has been playing and every one of these guys right now contributing, I think they see what happens first, and then if there is a need, then they start thinking more along the lines of a waiver pickup like a Vrana, a potential deal, or maybe for the time being, giving one of the young guys an opportunity for a little bit to come in and get their feet wet and be a part of it. But I will say this is a different scenario than if the team had just sort of been up and down. Like, I mean, they've been winning hockey games consistently right now and are battling in first place. And it's hard to point out anybody on the roster right now that hasn't had a big piece of it. Jeff Hamilton's with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hit that subscribe button and thumbs up if you haven't already. Another great crowd in here on WST today. Hey, I wanted to get away from the Jets for a minute. I've been looking forward to have you on.
Let's go.
Because, I mean, you are an award-winning journalist, a big J if there ever was one. I wanted to get your perspective on the nature of insiders and the fiasco that took place with the Shohei Ohtani period of time. Like, what's your perspective on that?
I came here to have a calm conversation.
Now
to just, you know, like to you know, to not furrow my brow as much as I often do, to come across as a nice guy. I'm really happy to be out of COVID and everything, and you bring this up. It's a disgrace, man. But here's the thing, like, it, you know, what was it? So what were I mean, I'm going to get into details of, like, I mean, I don't even want to get into what happened with the Dodgers Nation guy, because that to me is just like that non-apology letter is like, that's a disgrace. Like, that guy knows nothing about journalism. Like that to me was just insanity. But so was it Bob Nightingale who wrote the notes piece?
No. Morosi, John Morosi, the MLB insider, he was the one that put out Ohtani is on his way to Toronto.
No, but then Bob Nightingale, I think it's
Nightingale was the one that said he is not in Toronto. He is in.
But he wrote a column about insiders, which I think people should go read, about the relationship with insiders. And maybe this is the opportunity to kind of clear some of this stuff up. Like, NHL insiders, MLB insiders, NBA insiders, whoever it is, like, there's this perception that, like, they work hard. There's no doubt about it. Like, they grind in their own way, but they aren't hitting the cement trying to investigate all this stuff. They're getting phone calls. They're leveraged. The role of an insider is to leverage your information to all the teams. Everyone calls you and they'll give you something if you give them something on another. Like, it's all about leverage of information. And so 95% of the time, it's either the team or the agent that's getting their message across, right? And so it's just, there's times where it works out well, where, you know, they provide you the exact information. It's as solid as it gets. You can put it out there with no concern. You're not, you know, pushing send and then having your heart race 200 beats a minute because you're not 100, you know, you're 99.9% sure. But in this world, if you're not 100%, then there's some consequences. And so it's fascinating to me that you look at what happened here and the information, it's so obvious that whether it was the team or the agents, someone got played. Someone, like, because you don't go out there and make those kind of statements as a guessing game, like, because you get ruined. And so, while some people are looking at the Dodger Nation guy and saying, oh, maybe he was just predicting, or he had a pretty good idea of it and he was just hoping that it would be. Yeah, probably to a certain point, but you're not writing that this guy's going to Toronto unless somebody of some incredible value told you that information. Like, you're just not running with it. It's too dangerous.
Well,
and
the
so,
Morosi, the Morosi tweet seemed to come from CAA.
Yeah,
CAA. And I think there's a lot of conjecture that they sort of floated this out there and made this up to squeeze the Dodgers and to put pressure on them to up their offer and get the eventual $700 million that they're putting to them. But here's my question for you. If, like, is it just on Morosi for getting burned? Or is there, like, if he was lied to and put that out, I mean, that could have a terrible impact on a guy's career. I mean, I can tell you right now, like, he was a regular on the Fan 590 in Toronto. Like, he can never go on that station again. Like, if he does, I mean, there will be an uprising of Blue Jays fans walking down to the station. I mean, his credibility and potentially his earning potential takes a big hit. Like, it seems like from the outside, a guy that doesn't know anything about this, it seems like that's almost like fraud that can have major impacts to other people. But at the end of the day, is the name of the game. You got to source it twice, and he just went too quickly with it, even if he was being fed complete BS.
So it's if you look at what he reported, right? He reported that Ohtani was going to Toronto, not that Ohtani signed with Toronto, that he was, that he was just heading there. And so it's almost as much as the information you're not getting as the information you are getting. And it was pretty clear through his comments that he got screwed over by the agency, right? And so I can tell you this right now, he ain't trusting that agency ever again. So that's a guarantee. And I'm sure there's lots of lessons to me. I mean, he came out and apologized, man. That's the worst. Besides plagiarism, being wrong on a significant report like this one. I mean, this is the biggest contract in North American sports history. It has lasting consequences. And so, you do all your due diligence. There's no doubt in my mind. I have a lot more credibility from Morosi than the JP guy at Dodgers Nation, just because of his role and what he provides and what he's done in the past, tells me he got screwed over. And so fans either need to decide, okay, is this guy trustworthy? Is he not trustworthy? Like, he was given bad information from a good source. And so he's going to wear the brunt of it. Nobody cares. There's no face for the agency to yell at and get angry about, like, and they don't care if you get angry to them. It's not their game. So
could you sue them?
I don't think you can sue them.
Say he got fired. Say it's like, listen, this is too embarrassing for us. We can't have you on anymore. It's a fascinating
question, man. It's a fascinating question because if you're suing, you have to have proof. And I imagine he would have a ton of proof. You know what I mean? Text messages, all these things. And the thing is I don't understand why some men say, well, I do get it, because it's career suicide to come out and say who screwed you, because, there's lots of agencies that if they're not screwing you, they're using you. And so, or in this case, they're doing both. They're using you to screw you. And so it really is a fascinating argument, Huss. I never even really thought about it like that. But if you go and you misrepresent information and that affects your income and potential earnings for the future and your reputation, and as we all know, if you don't have your reputation is everything in this business, then yeah, I think you might have grounds. I mean, hell, man, we're seeing new things enter court seemingly every week these days. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one, but I also think the play here is for Morosi to just take the hit. We live in a world of 24 hours news cycle. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Jays fans that are not going to be happy with him or like him or whatever, but something else is going to happen soon enough to take over all the attention. So I don't think you want to go down that path. But at the end of the day, man, if drastic consequences are the result here for, like losing your job, then yeah, I think you do probably have some legal recall.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about it a lot because, it was obvious that the Jays, and certainly fans of the Blue Jays north of the border, got completely worked, taken advantage of, used. And and again, like the fans will get over it. They'll have to deal with it. But I do think of these professional relationships, and I mean, it seems pretty clear that there was intentional misinformation put out by people, two very powerful people that are going to be paying the price for a long time after those checks are clearing for Shohei and CAA's agency with the way that they put it all up. We'll have to. This is a fun conversation. We'll get into more on this on some day when we've got a little bit more time. What do you have cooking in the Freep coming up?
I'm digging back into the CFL today in my rundown column. Lots of big news around the league with coaching staffs, with signings, just some stuff, some other stuff for the future here. So I'll write my rundown column today, and then I got a couple things on the go this week. Some more longer term projects that I'll be digging into, and I'm actually doing a cheerboard story on Friday. So get really excited for that one coming out 4:00 afternoons Friday. So just working, man. I'm feeling good being back at work. That's, to me, like, I wasn't even kidding. I got pretty giddy just being healthy again. It's I'm just going to enjoy the week.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is great to hear, and I'll look forward to that. And we're actually got a nice little donation for the cheerboard coming up too. Thanks to everyone that joined us last Wednesday. Hammer, glad to see you're off the DL. You're still looking like $1 million US tax-free, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great one, and maybe we'll see you at the rink on the weekend.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for having me on as always. And I'll unless there's some crazy circumstances, I will be at the next Winnipeg Sports Talk live event. I can guarantee that. Unless I'm working or something that is out of my touch, I'll definitely be there. So
right on, dude. Right on. Have a good one, and we won't wait for that event. We'll get together soon for a couple. Great stuff. There's Jeff Hamilton. You can read his work in the Winnipeg Free Press, and of course, give him a follow on X if you haven't already at Jeff K. Hamilton. All right, Reem. Andy Mack's ready to go, but if we do have a bit of breaking news, we've got this. I think we've got some Rick Bonus video, which we'll fire out in just a second. Maybe if you want to get that ready, I will thank our friends at Princess Auto for the great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, we've got the holidays coming up, and Princess Auto fans swear by it for a good reason, because it's the best deals on the wildest and most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new in 2024 is there at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them at one of their two Winnipeg locations, Panet Road or Portage Avenue West, and get those last-minute holiday gift ideas rolling in the dome over, and the shop online 24/7 as well at princessauto.com. Speaking of Christmas shopping, you can take care of pretty much all of it for the Jets and sports fans in the family with a quick trip to Manitoba's #1 sports superstore, Royal Sports, with the biggest and best selection of licensed team gear you'll find anywhere, including thousands of pieces of Winnipeg Jets merch, including all the jerseys personalized with your favorite player, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, NHL, NFL, tons of MLB gear as well for Blue Jays, Raptors, international soccer, and of course the biggest and best hockey selection as leaders in hockey skates, equipment, goalie equipment, sticks, and more for over 40 years. And while you're popping in at Royal, make sure to check out all the cool stuff on the the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. Incredible Yeti selection as well. All sorts of cool hats, shoes, you name it, they've got it. Royal Sports. Take care of your list for the holidays right now at 750 Pembina Highway, and follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, speaking of the Jets, we'll hear from Rick Bonus in just a second. Great night to maybe have a nap and then head on out, take advantage of happy hour prices between 9 and 12 at your local Boston Pizza, and watch the Jets take on the Sharks, and then I'm back at it tomorrow night when the Jets take on the Los Angeles Kings. All the great new additions to the appetizer menu, in addition to their world-famous wings, ice-cold schooners, and gourmet pizzas. No better place to watch the Jets than your local BP. And if you are staying at home tonight, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Andy McNamara is coming up in just a second. We've got a very quick clip. This is what Rick Bonus had to say on Kyle Connor's status after today's morning skate.
Kyle is heading back to Winnipeg. He'll be reevaluated by our doctors tonight when he gets in, and we'll go from there. But as now, obviously, he's not playing tonight or tomorrow, and we'll know more tonight once our doctors have the chance to examine him themselves.
So has there any kind of time frame explained the sort of potential?
Not until we hear from our doctors. Kyle is.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, nothing definitive from the head coach. Kyle's on his way back to Winnipeg. He presumably will be seeing them, I believe he said tonight. So whether we get a further update in LA tomorrow from Rick, I think it's probably more likely that Thursday or Friday, the official word. But as Mike reported earlier, and he, of course, is there in San Jose, the expectation is that Kyle Connor will be out 6 to 8 weeks, hopefully. But I think that's an important caveat there that for the meantime, Rick Bowness would only rule Kyle Connor out for the next couple of days, and some more consultations with Winnipeg Jets team doctor staff will happen when he gets back to the city. All right, let's bring in Andy Mack. Look at this. Believe in Cleveland. The Brownies are back.
Woo!
And my guy, the elite Joe Flacco, a man who had tormented the Browns for many years as a Super Bowl winning quarterback in the division for the Ravens. Now as the Browns back on top, you must be pretty fired up these days, Andy.
I think I would ever be rooting for Joe Flacco. I never, ever. You could have given me the name of 100 quarterbacks. I never would have picked Joe Flacco off of it for the ones that would start as the fourth quarterback for the Browns this year. Not only the fourth one to win a game. Like, plus, that's got to be Coach Stefanski right up there for Coach of the Year opportunity for the Browns. To be 8 wins, if they should make the playoffs with 4 different quarterbacks. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think you'd probably have to go pretty far back in NFL history to find a team that was a playoff team that had 4 different quarterbacks win games for them. But it hasn't been a wild season. And, to think that Nick Chubb got his knee blown out early on, and, I mean, everything that's happened with Deshaun Watson and the rest of the quarterbacking crew, you understand why this was such an important year for the Browns organization going all in, because they had a world-class defense. They thought they had the pieces in the offense that obviously aren't around right now, but they're finding a way to hang in there and win big games. And I'll tell you what, once you get to playoffs, a defense like that can win you a lot of tilts.
Yeah, it sure can. Now, the trouble with, and we see it across the league, of course, and it almost seems, and maybe we say it every year, Huss, but it seems like this year more than others. The injury bug, my goodness, it's crazy. And now it's affecting the Browns on the defensive side of it, but they're getting a little healthier. Denzel Ward, Pro Bowl corner, he's back in. You have MJ Emerson, who's been a second-year player. He's been a star this year. And it's a case where you look at the attrition and the Jim Schwartz factor and how you overcome that, and really how you have to lean on it. But the funny thing is, Huss, it's been the offense the last 2 games with Joe Flacco who has helped the defense overcome. And again, 4th different quarterback. Joe Flacco, he has added stability. The receivers, I have to tell you, the receivers for the Browns, they're like giddy talking about playing catch with Joe Flacco. Not because he's like some icon, but because the ball comes out. He's calm, cool, collected. You see in the game, it's just, plays out there, throw it away. Not going to run around for 10 yards in the back. Not going to get cute. Nope. Throw it down. Dump it. Let's go again. And he gets it done. It's spectacular. Now, you still have a long way to go. You got a very beatable, but a rising Chicago team coming in on Sunday. So it's going to be fascinating down the stretch.
It sure is. How about Monday night last night? Like, both of those games were incredible thrillers, and I will say this, it certainly didn't look like that was going to be the case through the first halves of both games.
No.
DeVito Magic in New York, and what a devastating loss for the Packers. I mean, I was saying at the start of the show, the hilarious result of the action on the weekend was that the Minnesota Vikings, by outlasting the Raiders in the 3-0 snooze fest, were the one team that they were the big winners in the NFC wildcard race. The Lions lost, so they've got 2 head-to-head games against the Lions. Now, I will preface this with saying there wasn't a damn thing I saw from the Vikings on Sunday that gave me a lot of hope that great things are ahead. That was as ugly as a game as you've ever seen. Hey, the defense played well, but at the same time, Andy, they're in the 6th hole right now at 7-6, and Green Bay, even with their loss last night, is still in a playoff spot at 6-7, but they've got a heck of a lot of company.
That NFC it's so reverse from, I think, what we thought was going to be at the start of the year. Like, we thought pretty much outside of the Raiders, AFC West was going to just be a bonanza, right? And now you see the NFC, but then you look at the NFC and we thought, okay, well, what are all these factors going to be? And it was supposed to be much better, and it's really not. You got the Buccaneers, 2 top of the division at 6-7. That's looking like a 8-9, 9-8 division winner. So this is anywhere up for grabs, but really, the Vikings, like Huss, like, okay, you won that 3-0 game. What, Nick Mullins is going to save you? But you know what? I shouldn't make fun. Tommy DeVito's winning games. Joe Flacco's winning games. Who the hell knows? Maybe Nick Mullins can do it for the Vikings. I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
we can't definitively say now in 2023 this season. We cannot write any situation off as just no.
Hey, listen, you're exactly right. I mean, like, looking at playoff teams right now, I mean, obviously Baker's playing pretty well with the your guy. Yeah, your guy. He's just getting it done. But I mean, that entire division, Falcons, Saints, Bucks, all 6-7. So somebody's going to make the playoffs. Yeah. But I mean, the Packers are in a playoff spot at 6-7. You've got the Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, Saints, all at 6-7. And don't look now, but the Bears and Giants are both playing pretty well right now. They're at 5-8, and normally would be an afterthought. I don't think you can say they're an afterthought right now, considering what the landscape of the lower end of the wild card is.
Well, and that's the difference between that and the AFC, where everybody is 7-6, pretty much, right? And yeah, so 5-8, like, you just got to hang around. And again, do we think the Giants are going to be, even if they do get in, are going to do anything in the playoffs? No. The Vikings, no. The Bears, no. But can they get there? Like, I guess, right? I just think it's interesting with Chicago. And I think if you're a Bears fan, you have to, if it was me anyway, I would want either Justin Fields to play through the roof, like, oh my God, he's the guy, or totally suck and then draft the quarterback. It's looking, Huss, like it's going to kind of be that in between that you don't want, where it's like, maybe, and then maybe you have a coaching change, and maybe that guy likes Justin Fields, but maybe he likes somebody else. And you got 2 draft picks at the first round, including the first overall pick, because Carolina's the worst. It's very interesting when it comes to that NFC North. And then goodness, the NFC East, like the Eagles were supposed to wrap it up. The Dallas Cowboys were supposed to be the paper tiger, right? You couldn't beat anybody, Dallas. Oh, okay. Just beat the best team in football. Oh,
it's wild. I mean,
what the hell do we do now?
There's Philly right now in the 5-hole. And how quickly things have changed over the last couple of weeks, and they don't look like that team that raced out to basically being the top team through 11 weeks of the season.
Oh, they're banged up.
Just to Fields for a minute. Like, I actually disagree. I think the better Fields can play, the better it is for the Bears right now. Because again, they've got Carolina's pick. The pick we're talking about is going to be number 1 overall. That's held by Carolina. That was part of the Bryce Young trade.
Terrible.
So they'll be able to get Caleb Williams, who,
if they want.
Well, here's the thing. You can trade, like, the better Fields plays, I think the more return you get for Fields from a team like Atlanta, like New Orleans, like one of these teams that, I think look and see him as a guy that would be a big, big upgrade from where they are. And the thing that you cannot underestimate is how important that rookie contract is for a quarterback. I mean, to have him, because, Fields is going to need a new deal in a year, after next season. So I think that the Bears make that move and go that way. And the better Fields plays right now, the better it is for his trade value. But let's get back to the AFC for a minute. How did Miami blow that game last night? And what's the aftermath of that? Because Tua, I don't know if you saw Tua at the podium after the game. he was still in a state of shock. And he sort of said, hey, everyone has bad games. We'll get around for it. But it just seemed like they hadn't even processed how badly of a fallout that they had from that.
Yeah. Total collapse. Like those two games, those two upsets, like Huss, I had no doubt in my mind going in that the results would have been opposite what they were. Like no question. I wouldn't have even placed a bet for fun the other way. Like there was just no question it was not going to go the way it did.
The Giants-Titans moneyline parlay?
Hey, that's why you play, right? You do that 100 times, you're wrong 99, but you do the right amount on one time, you're doing okay. But yeah, well, the thing was, what I found interesting going into this week was that Miami and Dallas were in the same conversation. It was, you can beat the average or bad teams, you can't beat the great teams. Dallas got rid of that conversation by beating the Eagles. Miami they couldn't beat a bad team. They couldn't even keep the same narrative going. You lose that one. What does that mean? Well, it keeps the door open for Buffalo, who is just, with all the injury, I don't know. They're not what they were, but they won. So it's like, now Buffalo's open. Now you don't have the number 1 seed. The 1 seed was right there for you. Now it's Baltimore's. So you have that it just clogs things up even more. And if you're Miami, it's like, I don't know. Like, is there here's the thing. If you look at the AFC, nobody really scares you fully of like, you cannot beat that team. Everybody seems it can be beaten. It's really exciting because there's not that one team where you're like, all right, they're unstoppable. It really has that parity feel.
You know what else it did? It sort of opened up the door a little bit more for the Chiefs. Because
as long as Patrick's done crying.
Baltimore, okay.
Come on, man.
I'm gonna mute your freaking mic right now. Okay, so what's your take on this? So you think that was just Oh, we actually did mute your mic. That's hilarious. I didn't mean to do that. Or did you mute yourself?
I didn't mute myself.
Someone much smarter.
I'm censored already.
Thank you, Remis. Thank you for doing that.
Remis, censored already. Oh my
your
goodness.
take on the end of the Chiefs-Bills game.
Listen, I'll say this. You guys had that coming for that dirty Dan Sorensen hitting the playoffs in 2020. That's so I feel no pity for the Chiefs.
Give me a break.
I'll never get over it. Anyway. Look, the thing was, you're whining that the refs didn't tell you why because you're the Chiefs. The guy was offside. There was a penalty. And then he's going to He's going to run after and try to go slap a referee, dissing Josh Allen. And I saw he made his apologies. I saw he made his apologies. Whatever. I think it's Patty Mahomes who's had and look, Huss, I don't have to tell you, guys, Hall of Famer, super talented. But let's be real here. They've never had a challenge to overcome winning a playoff game on the road. They've had the NFL lauding Flowers. Oh, Taylor Swift, it's so fun. Well, now you got some adversity, Patty. Let's see how you step up, kid.
This is such you're such a Cleveland Brown fan. Just being losers forever. I
love it.
Hating on success of legitimate championship operations, and even hating on championship operations in the world of pop music like Taylor Swift. It's the jealousy, the jealousy oozing out of you, Andy, frankly, is reprehensible.
Britney Spears greater than Taylor Swift. Who's with me? What's up? No, something didn't go the Chiefs' way, didn't go Patty's way, and he's having a little.
Listen, you watch football for a long time. I'm just talking about, like, take away the teams.
Okay.
That call at that point, after it had been happening all game, like Dan Orlovsky went through the entire like, Tony's an idiot. Like, I'm fully throwing that out there. Like, it's unbelievably, it's unconscionable to do that. However, everybody not everyone apparently, check my mentions, but anyone that knows the National Football League knows that penalty has been called 5 times in 3 years on a wide receiver. And why is that? Well, it's because the refs will tell guys, check. You always see the guys pointing over. Now, Tony did that and didn't even look at the referee. But Orlovsky went through the tapes. That had happened 6 or 7 times. And as he said, and this is a former NFL quarterback talking, you will never, it has never been called without a warning, for the guys to get back. To wait until that point to decide to do it, Carl Cheffers, I mean, It was hilarious. And then I got even more triggered last night. I don't know if you saw the start of the Miami game, but I mean, first possession for the Dolphins, Jalen Waddle's lined up even further than Tony was, and they've got
Really?
they got the full line. No one says anything. Like, just the timing of that was was brutal. And I mean, and the thing is, I do take solace in that anyone that has played in the NFL, you know, the Orlovskis out there said that is just, I mean, if you're going to do it when it's happening earlier in the game. Warn them, let them know that this is something, because it just is not called. And to happen in the last 2 minutes of the game really, really sucked. The big winners of all of this, though, are the Bills. And I do want to ask you, I mean, you know, with Miami losing last night, I mean, even the division, hard to believe, is on the table. However, when you look at all of those teams at 7-6, the Bills lose the tiebreaker to everybody. Wow. They're in the 11th spot right now. You know, and I'll pull up the Bills' schedule, because I'll say this too, Huss, on the officiating. Very true, everything you said. However, the officiating across the league this year has been horrendous. You can see, and like Myles Garrett was tackled multiple times with no calls in the Cleveland game, all across the league. Horrible calls and non-calls. I think it's a bigger conversation where you have to really start simplifying things for these refs, because there's too much betting money, fantasy money on the line to put up with this garbage officiating. It is the worst it's ever been. But Huss, let me get your take real quick on this. Yeah, I think it's because it's too complicated. Illegal formation, guys, like, simplify it. Take away the stupid stuff that doesn't really matter. Simplify things for the ref. There's too many little rules. These refs are all spinning around in their head. It's ridiculous, and it's costing teams games and people money. And when it comes to money, that's when the NFL starts taking notice. Well, and listen, I'll go one step further, because I kind of think these guys are put in bad positions. I mean, like, how the hell do they not have full-time officials?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are working.
NFL, like,
you know, like, I mean, essentially, you're taking a guy from the packing plant and your Uber driver and throwing stripes on him and having him decide these games.
Yeah, pay the guys X amount for a full-time salary. And guess what you're doing during the week, fellas? You're watching tape, you're getting accustomed, and you're just thinking about rules. Have simulated games. Go through virtual reality. Like, there's enough money to go around to do that.
Hey, back to the Bills.
Yeah.
So they get their big win against the Chiefs. They get to 7-6. They're right in the mix, although, as I mentioned, they're in a terrible situation tiebreaker-wise with all those teams there. They got the Cowboys this week. The Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, the Cowboys want to make a statement win. That's going to be a hell of a game. That's the late afternoon game. Then they go to the Chargers. They'll win that. Herbert's out for the season.
Yeah,
there's no way they lose to the Patriots at home after the Gesicki late touchdown. That was one of their 2 wins up until the game in Pittsburgh. But week 18, Bills at Dolphins. And the Dolphins are playing the Ravens on Christmas Eve. That loss last night, I think, completely changes the way they're feeling about themselves. Like, I think the Bills are very much live, but unfortunately for them, with the tiebreakers and the fact that if they don't beat the Cowboys and they get to 7-7,
that's tough.
Even if they win those 2 games against the Chargers, like, I think 10-7 should make the playoffs. I guess the big question is, can the Bills win 3 of these games when you're hosting the Cowboys and have to go to Miami?
Well, and the other thing is, you can get to 10-7, but you just mentioned it with the tiebreakers, right? Like, but what if Indy gets to 10-7? Houston with CJ Stroud banged up, maybe not. Denver, what if they get to 10? Like, you can have a lot of teams get to 10-7 here. Let's say 7-6 teams right now. Bills 1, Pittsburgh 2, Cincinnati 3, Indy 4, Houston 5, Denver 6. Like, there's a real possibility you get to 10-7, you miss the playoffs. It could happen on the tiebreak. That's wild, right? Like, do you think Dallas letdown game? You beat the big bad Eagles defensive. Do you think it's a letdown? Bills are an old school rival, so maybe not. That's kind of old.
You know, I listen. The Bills had that great start, but you know, they really didn't do a lot in the last 40 minutes of the game. And they've just made so many mistakes. I mean, listen, they were up 14-0 and Josh Allen just throws that pick. I mean, a dumb. I mean, I have no idea why he threw that ball, but that's been an Achilles heel of them all year. But when they're cooking, I mean, they are a problem, and it would be wild if they miss the playoffs. But I'll tell you what, if they somehow sneak in like that 6th or 7th spot, a good team that's had a good season is going to host a very dangerous squad. And we see it all the time, Andy. A team just getting in at 6 and they win the first wild card game. And the next thing you know, they're in the NFC or AFC championship game and can maybe make it happen. Oh, man. Could continue this on for another hour with you. But just quickly, how good is Saturday going to be? And we've all got our fantasy football playoffs kicking right now. I mean, the 3 games, both when it comes to playoffs and fantasy implications are wild. Like the Chargers-Raiders game is basically a write-off, especially with Herbert out right now. But Vikings-Bengals, both teams 7-6.
Yep.
Followed by the Steelers and Colts, both teams 7-6 and in playoff spots. Mm-hmm. And then the Broncos at 7-6 and the Detroit Lions. Like all 6 teams with winning records, all very much in the mix for playoffs, going head to head. I can't remember a Saturday slate in the middle of December like this ever.
No, and with like so many tie breaks, so much playoff implications on the line with it. Like the storylines here. Lions just got beat. Are they on the downtrend? Is that knee-biting Dan Campbell? Is that it? Or is he going to be able to rally them up? What about Sean Payton, who was a laughingstock and rightfully so started the year, led up to 70 points, trounced Nathaniel Hackett, then the Jets beat him. Now they're coming back. Like, okay, Haas, Broncos win. Are you getting a little uncomfortable in your chair there?
No. In fact, Andy, maybe you missed yesterday on the show. I came on and informed everybody that I hope they enjoyed Sunday because that's the last time the Chiefs are losing this year. Woo! Through the regular season and the AFC playoffs. I'm not guaranteeing a Super Bowl because I think the Niners are that good that even the Chiefs eliminating mistakes, receivers actually being able to catch the ball, all of that, like the Niners are and should be the favorite in the league. But I'll tell you what, I look at the rest of the AFC and I think we can give Mahomes, some credit for what he's done in the playoffs before when the chips are on the line. At a certain point, the rest of the guys need to step up. That has been far too infrequent throughout the year. Yeah, I mean, it's been, but I mean, again, they basically won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, it was MVS. I was at the game. He had a monster AFC championship game. Rashee Rice is coming together.
I like Rashee
But anyways,
Rice.
To answer your question, no, I'm not worried about the Broncos. But you know what would be juicy? If the Broncos get in, say, in the 7th seed, and Miami's the 2 seed, and the Broncos go back to Miami, the site of the 70-point beatdown, as an entirely different team.
Yeah.
And get another crack at Mike McDaniel. I think Sean Payton would kill for that opportunity. And I got to give a lot of credit to Russell Wilson. He quietly has had a monster season, although I think they're still away from being a legitimate contender. Yeah. What do you got coming up this week? You're cranking on any content or just counting down till kickoff for the Browns and Bears?
Oh, you know me, it's always working, brother. Yeah, so I got actually out right now. You guys can check it out on the YouTube channel, The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, or Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, Instagram at AndyMCSports. We got new episode out, fantasy football waiver, under the wire, waiver wire pickups for fantasy playoffs. Some of the guys you might be overlooking or need to pick up. We got that there. Lots of Browns talk as well. Of course, a little Flacco fever. I had to get the hanky out there. Haas got to dab the head. Get ready. And then Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, again on YouTube, The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. Click subscribe. We're live 10 a.m. Eastern. Get your fantasy football start, sits, news, answer, hashtag Ask Andy. Get all that in, and we have a lot of fun.
You know, I know we were joking around, and I was giving you the brain damage about being the Browns fans, but I do cheer for the Browns. I've always been a Flacco guy. So
I am now.
if they're not playing the red and gold, I'm fully in on Cleveland. Woo. And that defense, you put them into a playoff game and there's no gimmies. There's no gimmies against those guys, and pray your quarterback survives going up against Myles Garrett. Listen, we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. We got to do this a little more often. Let's catch up in the next couple of weeks as we get into the holidays.
Anytime, buddy. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Right on. That was good stuff. There's Andy McNamara at AndyMC81, and links there for all of the sick podcasts. You know, while we were talking about that, Joey Panks made a great point in chat. And again, we're talking about the NFL, the biggest league in the world, and the fact that they don't have full-time officials, which they really should. But Panks makes a great point that probably the biggest barrier to getting elite officials in a lot of places is at lower levels. The abuse that they take, and I'm talking about kids that are getting started at, local rinks and stuff. I mean, some of the stuff that goes on is just, frankly, disgraceful. And, with our program, It Takes a Community to Play with Sport Manitoba that we launched last week, we're going to talk about getting people involved, how they can volunteer. And we talked about coach recruitment, but official recruitment is going to be incredibly important. And, I know there's been a lot of, programs installed to protect officials. It's sad that we've actually had to get to that point. But this is just a local PSA that as much as myself and people can, yell at a TV about something that happened in an NFL game, it is important to respect the people because these games do not happen, plain and simple, if there's no one there to blow the whistle. It takes a community to play. And you can be an official for the sport you love. Unfortunately, you might have to deal with a little bit of the business, but it's very important as we go forward. And again, we'll get to our next guest for It Takes a Community to Play for Sport Manitoba, supported by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, with Vlastimil Cherny coming up on Thursday's show. Speaking of Thursday's show, that is when you're going to want to join us, because I think Thursday we're going to do the Beat the Box Office tickets on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll figure out how we're going to do it, probably a wheel spin. But if you're with us live on YouTube on Thursday in the second half of the program, you'll have a chance to win Beat the Box Office tickets for AEW. And the other pair of Beat the Box Office tickets, you can enter right now at winnipegsportstalk.com, and we'll announce the winner heading into the weekend as well. It's going to be unreal. April 10th, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the Golden Jets, Winnipeg natives are coming back with all the stars of AEW. Pre-sale December 14th. On sale this Friday, December 15th. So if you are a wrestling fan, if you went to the first event, it was phenomenal. And man, along with Don Callis, who joined us last time, AEW is a great time, and so many top Winnipeggers as part of the show. So hopefully we have another great turnout for AEW. Get your tickets. You want to talk about a great Christmas gift for the wrestling fan in your family? They go on sale on Friday. And if you have ability for the AEW pre-sale, that is December 14th. And Thursday, be with us on WST live on YouTube for a chance to win a second pair of Beat the Box Office tickets, in addition to the one that you can enter right now at winnipegsportstalk.com. Hey, a big thanks to our friends at Little Brown Jug. Hey, the holidays are here. We had a great time last week raising money for the Christmas cheer board. Now it's time to both get together with friends and entertain at home. And if you're having beer, you may as well ring in the holidays with Winnipeg's finest, Little Brown Jug. If you go to the tap room right now, they've got a great deal. If you buy 12 assorted cans of your Little Brown Jug favorites, you'll get a $15 gift card to enjoy in the tap room on your favorite pints. It's a great deal. And you can also check out the deals and all Little Brown Jug offerings at your local beer vendor, really wherever sells great beer. And check out the merchandise as well at littlebrownjug.ca. You can't order online, and they will deliver. And of course, with the holidays here, you want to get a little festive. You want to take your holiday dinner to the next level? Why don't you hit up Nick and Nikki for a DQ holiday-themed ice cream cake? Who's not going to love that? Hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. If you would like to maybe get a custom order in, send a picture or more, you can pick it up quick and easy at either DQ Polo Park or DQ Northgate, or pop into either of those locations and check out everything they've got ready to go for you to add a little bit of DQ to your holiday festivities. And don't forget, they got that Pita Pit out in Niverville as well. Great catering options. Hit them up at Pita Pit Niverville on Twitter or X or Instagram if you want to get some Pita Pit catering. They'll deliver throughout the city of Winnipeg as well. All right, let's get Remo back in here. And Remo, this has been a wild show today. Tons of people in here and a lot of questions as to what is up with Kyle Connor. We found out throughout the show. Mike McIntyre reporting they are hopeful it is 6 to 8 weeks. But again, as the clip we just heard from Rick Bowness, nothing official, if you will, and he's on his way back to meet with Winnipeg Jet doctors.
Yeah, Rick Bowness not confirming anything. Mike McIntyre reporting timeline. And you have to wonder, after all the reputable journalists about the Ohtani, people are doubting Mike McIntyre's Big J journo skills. So if Mike's saying 6 to 8 from his source, I would agree with that. But Rick Bowness publicly not going with anything. And I think that's kind of a best case scenario, other than, he's fine back tomorrow, but, he's not out for the season. He's going to be back for the playoffs. So 8 weeks. Well, today's December, so he's out January, and you hope, mid to late February. Look, March, you have him back in time for the playoff push. Perfect timing. I think they can weather the storm. Do they look to bring in someone? We're seeing some people in chat maybe not interested in Jakub Vrana, but that was a name on waivers who's had success before. I think they have to consider if he's going to be a fit in the dressing room. But the Jets are, I think, well equipped. They just proved it with Gabe Villardi being out. They proved it last year when Nikolai Ehlers was out. Mark Scheifele's been out in the past. It's going to be tough. Someone's going to have to step up and start scoring goals. He does lead the team, but I think they'll, they can weather this storm here for 2 months.
Yeah, and they're going to have to starting tonight. LB getting the start, which means we expect Connor Hellebuck to get the start tomorrow against the Kings. And then, of course, that big one Saturday night. Get your tickets. Jets Avalanche, Saturday night, Canada Life Center. Great way to kick off this upcoming 4-game homestand. And, let's get over to the Coolbet lines. And again, I know I mentioned this at the start of the show, but shout out to WST and Lock Shop regular Mark Amfanasuk, who's always there in the marble race. Well, he was second to Nino Niederreiter on Friday. Mark was the November winner of the Coolbet Hockey Hall. So he's got a Coolbet prize pack coming his way, as well as tickets to see the Winnipeg Jets down, at Canada Life Center. Tonight in the NHL, I did cook up a WST parlay for you, but quickly, let's get to these games. Leafs at Rangers. John Tavares getting booed out of the building last night as he scored his 1,000th point in, of all places, Long Island against his former team, the Islanders. Leafs plus 150, Rangers minus 177 tonight. The Canes have lost 4 in a row. It started off with their trip here to Winnipeg, and it got worse throughout the road trip, trying to salvage something from Canada. They're minus 130 favorites in Ottawa to take on the Sens, who are plus 111. Coyotes plus 161 dogs in Pittsburgh, as the Pens are minus 192 faves. Detroit at St. Louis tonight. The Blues minus 141 favorites. Same number for Predators, who are hosting the Flyers. Flyers plus 120. Lightning and Canucks plus 114 for Tampa. Vancouver minus 134. The Oilers, Remo, minus 472 favorites against the Chicago Blackhawks. And the puck line in this game is minus 2.5. And it's only even money right now. I think there's a lot of people that expect the Oilers to blow out the Blackhawks.
Yes, I expect that to happen as well. The Oilers are hot. They're playing this home stretch. They've put this line. They finally figured out the line they need to put together to have success. McDavid with Nuge and Hyman. I'm shocked that it took this long, but those guys have been rolling. And Chicago, we saw them here. They are not very good. And Stuart Skinner, he's found his game. So the Oilers made the coaching change, did work, because they've been pretty good since then.
Yeah, I think they were bound. They were also getting some saves mixed in, which is nice, as you mentioned, with Stuart Skinner playing a heck of a lot better. I threw out for the Coolbet play of the day today, McDavid over 1.5 points. It was minus 116 earlier. It's now minus 132.
for over 1.5.
1.5 points and over 2.5 points, which I think I am going to sprinkle on, plus 215. But listen, McDavid had too much ground to catch up from everyone. He's doing it in bunches right now. This has all the makings of an Oiler romp and a big night for Connor McDavid. The Panthers are in Seattle to take on the Kraken at minus 169 faves. The Vegas Golden Knights minus 193 favorites against the Calgary Flames. And the final game on the schedule, the late one, 9:37 puck drop at the Shark Tank. The Jets minus 215 favorites on the road in the San Jose Sharks, plus 180. But if we kick over to the exclusives, first off, the Winnipeg Sports Talk Parlay. No Kyle Connor. Guys need to step up. We've got a Nikolai Ehlers goal. Josh Morrissey with an assist to continue his great play. And the Jets to win, plus 335. So we got a nice boost from the fellas on that one. So if you like Ehlers to score, Morrissey to get a point, and Jets to win, you could ride with me on that, plus 335. And then Dusty and I cooked up a 3-gamer in the Lock Shop Partner Parlay. The Lightning to beat the Canucks, Panthers to beat the Kraken, and Vegas Golden Knights to beat, who are they playing again?
Calgary.
Calgary, yes. Calgary after blowing that 2-goal lead last night against the Avs. When we put that into the computer originally, and a couple of these lines have moved, it was plus 425. Jake and Patty gave us a nice little boost at plus 465. So if you like our partner parlay, jump on that. And if you just want to focus in on the Jets game and you're feeling Nikolai Ehlers to score, Morrissey a point, and the Jets to win, plus 335, all there in the Coolbet exclusives.
Yeah, I'm looking over the lines. I still think Gabe Vilardi's been kind of underpriced for the Jets. I've been saying he was in the plus 300s. He's still kind of high. Was he plus? He's plus 2 something. I just saw. Plus 245. So they're moving him up now. He's on the top line. So I still.
Well, and of course, and he just got his first.
Yeah. Coming.
And sometimes those come in bunches. And you know he's going to have a heck of a great opportunity doing it, playing with Ehlers and Scheifele, especially the way he can get to the net. I mean, that was just a sublime tip that he had to score the winner in the last game.
Yeah, and I've been saying he's due for a while, so he finally got one, and they're going to need him to step up more and more. Brossois, and people are asking in chat, Phyllis, who's the Sharks goalie? Mackenzie Blackwood is the likely starter, according to Daily Face. I mean, he's actually been pretty good, and the Sharks have been good on the stretch. And, I was going through, whatever pictures, and I was reminded of I don't know if it was the last time the Jets played the Sharks, but James Reimer just robbing them repeatedly, and them losing an important game to San Jose late in the season as they're pushing towards the playoffs was not ideal. But I think the Jets, again, this year, we're not here to talk about last year anymore, Huss. That's old news. We're here to talk about tonight in San Jose.
Everybody's over last year. We're not over Kyle Connor being injured, and the Jets are going to have to figure that out. As we mentioned with the lines, Vilardi up to the top line, Morgan Barron getting an opportunity to play with Vlad and Perfetti, keeping Appleton and Niederreiter with Adam Lowry, that wrecking crew that's been so dominant all season long. Axel back into the lineup with Gus and Alex Iafallo on the fourth line. Obviously a new look power play for tonight as well with Kyle Connor out. So yeah, get a nap in, folks, if you need it, because it's a late one tonight. And with a win, the Jets will regain first place in the Central Division. But as we saw, Remis, it is that close that, on a night where they didn't play, Colorado and Dallas win, and the Jets wake up back in third. But 2 games in hand on Colorado and down by 2 points. 1 game in hand on Dallas, down by 1 point. All will be right in the world if they can get this win tonight, with LB backstopping them back into first place, and then trying to run the table against the Kings if they can get the win tonight.
Yeah, and Hellbuck, saving Hellbuck. I said they were going to go with Hellbuck over against San Jose, just give him that extra rest. But hey, I think it shows when they pick Brossoit, they have confidence in Brossoit, and they really want to win and put their best foot forward against an LA Kings team who's been very strong. And I don't know if we have to make like a WWE style trailer of Balharry versus Lizotte. Are we expecting any fireworks there after Balharry had his press media availability last week?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Whether it's Balharry, whether it's one of the other players on the Winnipeg Jets, I'm not.
Shifley, he's the glove dropper.
Shifley or Ehlers, basically the two guys that are always dropping them. Hey, a good comment from Matthew Jansen. Pretty big trap game versus the Sharks. They heavily outshot Vegas and lost a close one last game. Lots of dynamic comebacks recently. Jets will need to play well, and that's exactly right. This is a team that was completely written off, justifiably, after being people were calling them the worst NHL team in the last 20 years in the first 10 games of the season. But they've actually been catching a lot of teams and beating them. So, and I think even more so, Remo, with the new looks of the lines, I think it will be back to the structure that Rick Bowness, Scott Arniel, Brad Lauer has instilled. Help out your goaltender and make the most of your opportunities. And even without Kyle Connor, the Jets certainly can win this game, but the San Jose Sharks have shown you got to show up for a full 60 minutes if you're going to beat them.
Yeah, hey, they came back against Vegas the other day, and the Sharks are 5-3-2 in their last 10. So they've, they're not that team that early in the season, gave up 10 goals in back-to-back games. They do have some talent, and I think their goalie's going to have to play well for them, but this should be a tighter game than we expect. I don't know. I have flat. What was that game against San Jose where Hellbuck made like 50 saves? Something where the team didn't even show up.
Oh my God. That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think that was CJ Cease's debut in the National Hockey League. And yeah, it was 51 shots to 17 or 18. One of the most lopsided in the entire Hellbuck era. They certainly will look to avoid that tonight and help out Laurent Brossoit, who's looking to make it 2 in a row after a very impressive start last week against the Hurricanes. And tomorrow on the program, we'll discuss what happens tonight and get ready for Balharry and Iafallo's return to Los Angeles to take on the LA Kings with Connor Hellebuyck in net after LB starts tonight.
Yeah, and I texted Dennis Bernstein in LA, so he is going to join us, and we're going to talk to him about trade. I mean, how can we not? Now it's funny. We felt the connection with Columbus for so long with the Line A Dubois trade. Now Dubois is in LA. Line A, his game has really fallen off, and it's kind of sad considering how promising.
Totally sad.
It's very sad. But now we're connected with LA forever, and I know a lot of people in chat mentioning Pierre-Luc Dubois' numbers for this season. There was an article a couple weeks ago when we were at the Grey Cup calling him out for his play. 11 points, 25 games, 5 goals, 6 assists. I don't know if that's what they thought they were getting when they signed him up for that huge contract after the deal. I think.
I'll poke and prod.
Yeah,
I'll poke and prod Dennis for the latest on PLD tomorrow. Of course, he did score against the Jets here on what was the low point of the entire season, that third game of the year. Where Balharry got hurt early on, Dubois scored, and the Jets really weren't in that game in the second and third periods. But really since then, they've been the best team in the NHL since November 4th. They're playing some good hockey right now, and it's about time for everybody to step up in the absence of Kyle Connor. And again, I would expect that Thursday or probably most likely Friday, we'll hear more from the club on a confirmed timeline for Kyle Connor and a potential return. But as Mike McIntyre reported, they're expecting 6 to 8 weeks, quote, hopefully, for Kyle Connor. And we'll have more on that when the Jets get back after these next 2 games. But first up, it's the San Jose Sharks tonight, 9:30 puck drop. Enjoy the game, gang, and make sure to join us, and we'll get right back at it. Dennis Bernstein in LA tomorrow. The latest on the Jets. We'll hear from the club and the locker room and get ready for the road trip finale before the Jets get back home to open things up on a big 4-game homestand heading into Christmas with the Colorado Avalanche here on Saturday night. Make a plan to get to that game. Lots of good tickets still available over at winnipegjets.com. Thanks again to all the sponsors. Thanks to Andy Mack, one of my boys, for coming on today, talking a little NFL. Great stuff with Jeff Hamilton. And again, props to Jamie Thomas for coming on today. I wasn't sure whether he'd be able to even go into work after what happened to his Dolphins last night, but he manned up. He stepped up. It was great to have him on the program as well. And whatever your NFL team is, whether you're angry, you're mad, you're excited, you're depressed, the Jets can be back in first place with a win tonight. We'll be watching for it at 9:30 p.m. Enjoy it. We got to get the pods up, but hit that like and subscribe on your way out, and we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on WST.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.